All right, legends, have a look at this.
There was a whole batch. Yeah, hang on. I have to go back because there's someone coming. There was a whole batch of dinghies in the little area near the crane in the boatyard. Loads of them, all numbered. You'll have just seen that clip, hopefully. And I thought, okay, tomorrow the lorry's probably going to come. And guess what? Here it is.
So there's all the dinghies sat in a harbour in the marina at Dover. Here's the lorry come to collect them to take them back to France.
Go and wander over there and just see if it's the same truck. Alright, today we're going to try and follow it.
Okay. Let's get into it. Hello friends, how you doing? I hope this finds you absolutely wonderful on this another day in our paradise. And if you're not feeling wonderful, well, you should be, because it's like this. You're a massive legend. You were born a massive legend. You will transform out of this existence as a massive legend. It's just a shame that there's a bunch of Muppets that throughout history have created this thing called society, which is designed to make you feel bad and not to be out there every day absolutely smashing it like you should be. The good thing is we've got the antidote. We know how they work and we know what we got to do. So if any of you out there have ever heard of the wonderful Alan Watts, we're going to be looking at some answers, folks, because we don't believe in doom and gloom on this channel. We believe in the answers. And we also believe in taking down the cabal, because they've had their greedy little gaslighting mitts on us for far too long. They think we're all too stupid to understand what's going on. And we're not. We're witnessing what they believe is their new world order. In this case, this is their K plan. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, can you? So, in no particular order, I won't play any more of that clip. You get the point. He's basically saying the UK lied. They're not destroying the small boats. They're just packing them up in lorries and sending them back. And we knew that, didn't we? Just let me know now. Let's just see the feeling of people out there. Do you believe that the reason the UK is experiencing this rampant mass illegal, or legal, if you want to put it that way, immigration, and that when the asylum seekers arrive here, if they get right to remain, then the Red Cross get on the case, and guess what? They then bring all their families over. And I'm not against, people migrating. This is not the point of this chat. What we're highlighting here is it's such a rapid change. With such a clash of utterly different cultures and socio-economic circumstances and mental health balances, etc., that it's going to end in tears. Now, if you think Keir Starmer is the sole person responsible for this, like if you can get rid of queer, if if you can get rid of him, then all this will be sorted. Or are you in the boat that you think there's something that needs exploring here? There's a darker agenda, you could say. It's possibly been in situ for many years. Let me know in the comment section. So, right, where are we? Where are we going with this? Can someone just let me know in the chat that you can hear us okay? Otherwise, I'll be sat here talking to myself. And before I go any further, can I just say we've still got very limited places left on our Arctic Circle expedition in first week of March. Okay, it's an 8-day expedition to the Antarctic. To the Arctic Circle. Thank you, friends. You can hear me loud and clear. Got you. If you want to come up there, we're going to teach you as former Royal Marines Commandos. Look, there's my team. We're going to be based out of this excellent outdoor resort. And once we've got you trained up on skis and survival techniques, we'll be skiing across the pristine Arctic tundra from cabin to cabin, cooking by candlelight, loading up the fire, having a good bit of banter, telling a few yarns, doing a bit of male bonding. This trip's for men, folks. But if you're a female out there and you'd like to come on the next one, send me a message or send me an email. Email's all in the YouTube information, folks. Or you can just go to my website. There it is. Look, christhrall.com. This is a trip of a lifetime. If you're watching this now going, do you know what? I need to be on that. Yes, you do. Make contact. Otherwise, we can't help you make it work. It's not hugely expensive. But of course, if you haven't got much money, then perhaps it is. So that's why it's all the more reason to get in contact. So, yeah, immigration, all by design, really helps, doesn't it, to understand things like the cult of Saturn or the Sabbatean Frankists, as they've been referred to, and to see how them and their Saturnic, this aka satanic agenda is playing out. But we see them, don't we? The other thing about the immigration, let me know what you think. How come we can get 2 million people, allegedly 2 million, I didn't count, but marching in London, or gathering in London, for free speech, but no one's addressing the illegal immigration thing? I mean, I'm not saying they should be. I'm just asking a question. If you know why that is, why are there no, let's say protests? I think a lot of people believe protests don't work. So I'm not suggesting, like, if we have a protest, it'll all be fixed. Why would I not suggest that? Well, because nobody understands this lot, do they? The so-called proud English warriors really have been sidetracked by football and beer, both of which I love, folks. So that's not a judgment call. But what I'm saying is, when the highlight of your agenda is what time is Strictly Come Dancing on, then this country's got a problem, because this lot, they are solely focused, the old Sabbateans, on, when they're not controlling presidents and prime ministers, their sole focus is on greed, power, gain, and promoting their, their Luciferian doctrine. So why is it we haven't seen any gatherings about illegal immigration, except the people at the, the migrant hotels? We've seen that, haven't we? I just would have thought there would have been like millions of people really would get together for that one. Genuinely. Let me know your thoughts. Yes. Okay. Right. Moving swiftly on. I've just pulled up a few things here, folks, we can chat about today. Massive hello to everyone in the chat. It's good to see that people get it. Yes, everything's in cycles. Everything's in cycles or cyclic in nature. See what I did then? Let me just do something here, folks. I just want to check that my autofocus is off the camera because that gets annoying for me to see me phasing in and out. So got a throwback to the dance era. Phasing in and out of reality. Yeah, reality is cyclic, isn't it? Everything goes in cycles. This lot of they're having their Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, they love to recreate the Bible literally, and as we all know, the Bible's not to be taken literally. It's an allegory. And if you buy this wonderful dictionary, there's a link below. I might make some money off you. Then you start to understand. It's a code. It's not a history book. The land of milk and honey isn't a place for special people, if you get what I'm alluding to. They've lied to you on that. At some point, some maniacs came out of history, probably somewhere on the Russian steppes or the Turkic plains, and they said, hey, you know that book? There's them people in it, yeah? They're all like special under the guy with a beard. Yeah, we're them. Are you? Yeah. Oh, well, we better like afford you all kind of like special privileges and that, haven't we? And, never ever question or scratch below the surface of anything you say or write in history. And then we'll totally like screw it up for future generations just because you've made this rather bizarre claim on a book that is code, it's allegory, it never actually happened. Hey-ho, but moving swiftly on, and again, the same bunch of bandits are behind this, the whole Ukraine situation. So I'm reading this article that flashed up on the screen. I actually subscribe to the Telegraph, friends. As much as I begrudge paying these psychos anything, because I use it to do the show, to see what the cabal, what are they spoon feeding us this week. And this chap here, Hamish de Breton Gordon, who's a brother of mine through the military experience. I think Hamish was a colonel, but of course, when you're a colonel, you see the solution to every problem as, oh yeah, war, bombing women and children, and the blokes, but they generally can take care of themselves. It's the women and the children that really, they don't fare very well, do they, in conflict? And so when you see every problem as a nail and your answer is a hammer, it's not helpful. So I read this article. Look, Trump has failed to understand Putin's warped psychology. Hamish, sir, can I suggest it's you that's failed to understand? It's a big club and you're not in it. So stop playing by their rules, because if you dug a little bit deep, you'd see the whole conflict. The chap behind this conflict was this guy, Ihor Kolomoisky. He's a Ukrainian-born Israeli billionaire businessman. And what he did in his infinite wisdom is he used some of his billions. And remember, we're talking big club mafia here, folks. We're talking, the small country. These are the guys that the dual passport holders that play, play off the Rothschild's dream. You can't criticize them because they'll call you racist, won't they? Except that doesn't work anymore, because I think people are fed up with watching their family members keel over. And when you question the people behind these psychopathic corporations, they try and play the racist card with you. You, excuse my French, but you're a bit like, fuck off. And I know I said I wouldn't swear, folks, but sometimes I just... Anyway, so Kolomoisky here, this Russian, Ukrainian, Israeli criminal, he brought a certain chap to power. I don't know why they always pick gay people to make their primary, not always, but when you look at America and you look at France and you look at the United Kingdom at the moment, and then you look at Ukraine, not the USA at the moment, I'm referring to the Obama era, it's quite obvious that they like making their gaysters into positions of power. In this case, Kolomoisky bought a TV company, and he came up with this this TV series, Servant of Folks, can I just say, I know it's always the old disclaimer, I'm not being offensive to gay people here, not in any way, shape or form. That's not the issue. The issue is, why do they put them in power and then lie about their identity? Or lie about, there's two quite prominent world leaders of two superpowers that are married to blokes. And those blokes they're not, out the closet or whatever you call it. They're still pretending to be women, even after most of the world no, you're blokes. Why are you doing this? And of course, when you've got secrets that clearly, if you're not being honest with people, the reasons you're hiding them, I don't know if that's guilt or whatever, but that makes you blackmailable. And that's when people should have every right to ask questions, especially when you got your finger on things like the red button for the nukes that don't actually exist, but let's not go there today. So there you go. So we got this chap, Kolomoisky, brings this guy to power. At the same time, he brings him to power through a TV series, Servant of the People, in which Zelensky played. He made the leap from a gay S&M dancer doing kinky, pop videos to suddenly becoming this school teacher actor playing a school teacher who was so honest and so incorruptible that they made him president. And guess what? The Strictly Come Dancing mentality clearly in playing Ukraine meant they couldn't tell the difference, and they actually voted the guy in as their president, not realising that they're both, Kolomoisky's big club mafia central, and this guy, how can we say, through ethno blood religious ties, is in his thrall. To show you the irony, at the same time as Kolomoisky brought a Jewish president to power, he also funded the Azov Brigade, which are a hardline right-wing military faction. Do you see how they're playing the irony there? Yes, they're playing you. They're playing both sides. So when we go back to our article with Hamish, you could see I think Hamish has got a bit of groundwork to do here, to be honest. And I think if he did the groundwork, it'd be the last article he ever wrote for the Telegraph again. So there we go. But what they've done is Kolomoisky, they've lobbed the grenades and the mortar bombs, haven't they, into the Donbass region, ignoring the Minsk agreement and clearly not just massacring men, women, and children, but aggravating the Russian leader. The Russian leader has no choice but to respond, otherwise, because the people in the Donbass, they associate with being Russian more than they do Ukrainian, or they're ambivalent in the middle. So he's got to be seen to be acting because it's a Russian-speaking area. He's not at the point where he can sort of dominate Ukraine, because then that would get the backs up of the Western nations and their NATO even more. So he's got this fine balance where he's moved his troops into the Donbass. There's been a catastrophic loss of life on both sides, but it's the poor Ukrainians that you got to feel for, because they've just been sold alive by the big mafia. And what they've done is they've milked it. They've milked your tax-paying money, which they've just received in Ukraine, and siphoned off to their mafia buddies. That's it. Sold all the weapons, systems off that they can, put them on the black market, whatever. You go on, is it the Silk Road? Is that still up on the dark web? You go on there now, you're going to be able to buy like tanks and exocets and stuff. This is how gullible people are when it comes to war. War is just about money and power, literally just about that. Why? Because I wouldn't hurt you and you wouldn't hurt me, would you? That would be stupid. We just sit down and talk, come to a resolution, and then we'd all be happy. We'd go down a pub, have a pint, and be swapping email addresses. So clearly, war is nonsense. So who stands to gain? Well, we know. Now, where Donald comes in is that they've pushed this conflict as much as they could, with Zelensky groveling in front of the US Prime Minister, begging for more money and trying to show the pictures of the Ukrainian prisoners in Russia as though, well, whatever. This cow cannot really be milked anymore. So it's at this point that they want to install BlackRock, who have their reconstruction project for pretty much the whole of Ukraine, if I understand it right. Donald Trump is ushering in BlackRock. He doesn't see any issue with Larry Fink, potential big club mafia type guy, right? Owns the biggest portfolio of money on the planet. Him and the likes of Kolomoisky hooking up for the benefit of the Ukrainian people. That's where you start to see holes in the whole plot. So going back to the article, we're all being played. Look, Putin first invaded Ukraine. He didn't just invade Ukraine, did he? He moved troops across the border after years of 12 years of shelling and provocation, or at least 8 years at the time, if not longer. His ambitions for a greater Russia remain steadfast. Where does he get this information? When has Putin ever, when has he ever suggested that he wants a greater Russia? The territories taken back so far were where 98.5% of the people wanted to be Russian. Total subjugation of Ukraine has not wavered. How's he going to get that? He knows he can't go into Ukraine or he's going to face a backlash. So total subjugation. If he wanted to, if the Russian bear, and probably one of the mightiest militaries on the planet, surely they would just have walked in long ago and taken Ukraine. It's all kind of it is all really crap chess moves for the big club and their BlackRock. Anyway, I'll move on, folks. We've done that one a bit to death. And yeah, he's quoting here Witkoff and again all these big club puppets with ties to Israel, as though they're really, they're really going to do this country any good. So, right, where are we? Yes, this is doing the rounds again. I do like this. If you haven't seen this, just have a look. This is going to spin your melon.
Challenger roared and the rockets did fly. 73 seconds, a flash and a cry. Folks said they all said goodbye. They say some souls were lost today, but did they really hide away? Cause now we have the internet, they didn't know would be a threat. Same names and faces walking around, are the doppelgangers or have they been found? Captain Scobie got the same name, he says that's not me, I got no fame. Resnick and Onizuka, McNair in disguise. Are we supposed to not believe our eyes? Up they went, boom, they're gone, but the story keeps rolling on. Seen their faces clear as day, truth or tale, who's to say? So sing it, friends, about the stars and the skies, about rockets and legends and clever disguise. Some swear they're alive, some swear they died, didn't change their names, didn't even hide. Here is Judith Resnick, and here is Judith Resnick. She says I'm not a dead astronaut, just universities I've taught. Now this is Richard Scobie, and this is Richard Scobie. He says no, that's not me, I just run cows and trees. 6 doppelgangers walk in the land, must be a coincidence. Up they went, boom, they're gone, but the story keeps rolling on. Seen their faces clear as day, truth or tale, who's to say? So sing it, friends, about the stars and the skies, about rockets and legends and clever disguise. Some swear they're alive, some swear they died, didn't change their names, didn't even hide.
Yes.
Did nothing underhand.
Okay, I think you get the point. I think this gentleman's singing is alluding to the fact that all of the astronauts that are in the Challenger that traumatized like a whole generation of children on not just both sides of the pond, but globally, people that still live with that trauma of having the big TV wheeled into the class on, that what the hell was it? That stand, the wheeled the TV in. And everyone watched these 7 astronauts go to their demise, or demise their demise, and they're all still alive, is what they're getting at. And they're not just still alive; they've all got the same names, except one of them who's claiming, the Japanese chap who's claiming to be his twin brother. So there you go. As if people would make stuff up.
Pertinent question.
Stick to a script.
To ask, how do we build back better?
Build back better.
Building back better.
To build back better. To build back better.
Build back better.
Build back better.
Build it back better.
Build back better.
Build back better.
Build back better.
Build back better.
Building back better our economy.
Well, it means that we're going to have a lot of building back to do.
Some would say to build back better. We would say to really have a great reset.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global.
I've had enough of that. Isn't it mad? Where do these individuals think they're going? They're certainly not going up that way. What do they think they're going to get out of this? They're sociopaths. that genuinely believe that they're in a club that is superior to you and I. Yeah, fuck them. This is doing the rounds a lot. Have you seen all the 9/11 stuff now, especially on Instagram and X? Let's see what this guy's saying. I'll just refresh it.
The Red Cross rep was like, he goes over and he says, well, you got to stay behind this line because they're thinking about bringing the building down. They didn't say what building. They just said bringing a building down. So we're like, okay, we'll take their word for it. We'll stay behind the line. And he went over and he talked to one of the, through all the commotion, he goes over and he asked one of the Red Cross or one of the firefighters what was going on. I guess, I don't know if he got an answer or not.
Okay, I won't play anymore, but you get the picture. Just all of this footage that you never thought would surface again is all just surfacing. And for those that aren't aware, so there was a certain event a certain amount of years ago in which certain things went. It was orchestrated by the same cabal to which we've been referring to this whole show, using their front company, that small state. Probably shouldn't really call it a country, should we? The state that stole itself off the people that were already living there. And they co-opted all the intelligence agencies worldwide, put out this narrative through their media, even inventing transport that didn't even exist, which they kind of edited in afterwards, and then they told the whole world it was a bunch of maniacs led by a guy on a kidney dialysis machine dying in a cave in Afghanistan, who single-handedly managed to change the course of history, create the biggest atrocity in known history, all of which he did without one single mobile phone call or one financial transaction. So, for those of you that live in the real world, you might be pleased to know it's all coming to light. So just when the gaslighters thought they was getting away with it, it's all resurfacing, which I think will please a lot of people. Here's another one.
Literally engineered to keep telling the truth when everything else is destroyed. Yet on that day, we were told most were destroyed or went missing. Missing?
They're talking about the black box voice recorders.
These things don't go missing, they survive. Official lines say only one was recovered intact, and even that one's audio never released. Instead, we got a handful of scratchy phone calls and a few claimed hijacker clips. No full cockpit conversations, no pilot's last words. Just tiny, convenient clips you can hand to the public and say, trust us.
Yes, tiny, convenient clips. And when they analyze them, which they can do now with things like AI, have a guess which small state the accents belong to. Yes, that one again. And can I just say, folks, I've been in that place twice. I've travelled around there. Absolutely great time. Got a hire car, slept in a hire car. Woke up one morning, there was a tortoise right next to where I was sleeping. Yeah, nothing against people, folks. This is not about people. All the people are being played. You got a whole place there, like they're all in victim mode. They've all been sold this notion of history that's just not factually accurate in any way, shape or form. And off the bat, they all think they're victims. And you've got nothing against the people. What we're talking about here is the fiefdom created by the Rothschild banking industry, of which they hide behind to conduct their new world order and to leverage. Have you noticed we're more and more getting interchangeable with Americanisms, aren't we? Especially the youngsters now, because they don't know any difference because they're watching their YouTube and on their tablets and stuff. But yeah, they very cleverly manipulated history and particularly scripture, which is such a travesty, because scripture was written to set you and me free. It wasn't set up for a bunch of psychopathic monsters to conduct their new world order, and then for you not to be able to level any accusations against them because that makes you a racist or whatever the case may be. So it's all coming out now, and he's making a good point where what a black box is. What's this one? I don't know why this keeps coming up.
Politicians, the media, intel agencies in this country and abroad have all demanded that you believe the official story about 9/11. They tell you a group of al-Qaeda-affiliated terrorists somehow managed to evade capture for years as they planned the most significant and elaborate terror attack in human history. We're told that despite repeated encounters with the FBI, the CIA, local law enforcement, airport security, foreign intel organizations, the right information somehow never made it to the right people. That story is a lie. Nearly 25 years later, the families of 3,000 civilians are still mourning the murder of their loved ones. Anyone who doubts the official narrative is cast as a kook, a criminal, a fringe conspiracy theorist, and punished, even as the leaders who failed to protect our country on 9/11 use these attacks as a pretense to expand their own powers and permanently transform the United States. Over the course of this series, you will hear accounts from people who lived it. CIA officers and analysts who were there, FBI agents from the bin Laden unit, family members of the victims. All of them have firsthand information. What they'll tell you is that what you have been told about September 11th is not true. Why are we doing this? Our purpose is in part to make the strongest possible case for a real investigation into 9/11 25 years later. A new 9/11 commission, one that is honest, one that is not guided by partisan political interests, one that is not serving foreign powers. To do this investigation, we spent many months looking into what actually happened and speaking to people who saw it. We poured over thousands of pages of documents, mostly primary sources, but also contemporaneous news reports and declassified government documents. Over the course of this investigation, we made numerous findings that shocked us, not least of which the apparent role that former CIA Director John Brennan played in helping bring the 9/11 hijackers to the United States, and the remarkable lengths the CIA went to protect the 9/11 hijackers from the FBI and from domestic law enforcement.
Yes. Question is, are they going to point the finger at the cabal, the cult of Saturn, whatever we're going to call it today? Because all of this stuff, if you ever want to check out a chap, there's a chap who, is it Christopher Bolin? I'm hesitating because I watched all of his stuff years ago. And when he actually called out all the players, the main architects of that event, how can we say, a certain ethno religious type got up and walked, couldn't bear the truth, just would get up and walk out of his audience, basically. This what Tucker Carlson's doing, it seems good, doesn't it? I know there's criticism of him. People say he's this and he's, but you got to take the guy at face value. He's asking for this open investigation. In fact, they've done this investigation. But the question is, are we going to get the truth that the people deserve? Is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, folks, it gets kind of hard. There's certain things, obviously, I can't just come out and say on certain platforms. This one, the Turkish Barbershop Network. So if you weren't aware, you've got all these Turkish barbershops in your high street now. And, 1 second. Hello. Want to say hello? Meow. There you go. Sorry about that. As you can see, the cat takes pride of place around here. That's Ruby. Yeah, so I asked AI to list all the ways that they're, what am I saying, that they're laundering money, basically. And it came up with quite a few. This is quite a good exercise to do. Barbers declare far higher daily cash takings than actual haircuts. So they're claiming like that they're taking $2,000 a day. Whereas if you ever drive by one of these places, very often there's nobody in them. Quite often there's only one person in them, and yet they're claiming all of this money. And of course, it's laundering the proceeds from the Turkish heroin, the people smuggling operations, and other organised crime. So just wanted to highlight that in case you're not aware of that yet. What's this one? The COVID or the scamvid inquiry. Again, this is just gaslight. This is all gaslighting. Let's just say, right, and I've got to be so careful what I say. Let's just say you locked down everybody on the planet over something that physically, scientifically cannot exist and does not exist. And then you had an inquiry set up, not to question, like, does this thing exist, but to ask whether locking people up for something that physically doesn't exist is an okay thing to do. That is the lengths to which you're being gaslit. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to go on Locals in a minute. The Locals thing will run along the bottom of the screen, folks. It's a free platform, although I do life coaching videos there for the people that support me financially. We'll go over to Locals. There's also a link in the description box below on YouTube, folks. I'll go over to Locals and explain what I'm talking about. But, you know, let's just say the first place you look for your well-being is inside you and how you are living your life. If you're reduced to blaming other people for your well-being, then you know, you had paradise and you've just thrown it away. Literally, you know, on the spiritual journey, you're like a Rizla paper. That's how many steps you take in a Rizla paper. You got to stop believing this. What do you call it? This superstitious nonsense that our parents' generation taught us. They were the post-war generation. They had problems enough, like as it is. All the alpha males taken off to the war and they got. Oh, I think there's a cat issue. Did you hear that? Okay, yeah, all the alpha males, you know, who should have been telling the likes of the cabal where to go, all foolishly went and got themselves killed. They got left with a load of bloody sissy brainwashing nonsense that, you know, your well-being is other people affect your well-being. It's nothing to do with how you choose to live your life and whether you have a toxic carbohydrate diet. No, you're literally killing your cells off. So your body has to detox 2 or 3 times a year to keep you alive. No, they're not interested in that. They all got brainwashed into the theory that it's all other people are always to blame. You know, we got to rise above that. Can I just say thank you, Michael, for your very generous donation? I really appreciate that. Thank you. I thought this was interesting. Sorry, it's not coming up very well. This is the Liverpool car crash chap, Paul Doyle, former Royal Marine, in tears as he pleads not guilty. So it doesn't say anything more, folks. It does list all the case against him, which really reads horrible. Look, 11-year-old boy, 12-year-old boy, basically charged with intending to cause bodily harm. The reason I highlighted it is I wonder what the not guilty plea could be. Is that like diminished responsibility, do you think? Something along those lines, or perhaps even, a relapse into PTSD and being absolutely terrified that you've been hemmed in by a crowd. Anyone, do you remember anyone old enough to remember the signallers in Northern Ireland will know that, there is a certain moment there, isn't there, where you've just got to accept that you're just about to meet your maker. And I had it in Hong Kong, didn't I? Obviously, I didn't meet my maker. Would have met myself, wouldn't I? That'd be quite funny. All right, Chris. Hello, Chris. Sorry, I'm sidetracking. So, yes, I thought that was interesting. And I just want to finish on a couple of points here before we go over to locals. I can talk more about this over there, but I'll come across this. If you haven't listened to any of Alan Watts' stuff, really worth listening to. This was a guy, let me just play a bit.
Teachers won't tell you. Waken chose to never wake up from his own darkness. Alan Watts didn't die from alcoholism. He died from being too awake.
Okay, I just want to talk about this. You can't die, folks, from being too awake. Alan Watts, incredible orator. He went round the States back, I think it was like in the 70s. He did his huge series of lectures. And the guy, he was incredibly studied. He was studied in Tibetan Buddhism and ancient mysticism, etc., etc., etc. And the reason I wanted to highlight is as admirable as that is, and what a wonderful gent he is. I've listened to him in the sauna sometimes, just listened to him talking away. He's got such a good grasp on it all. But it's your enlightenment. It's a biochemical thing. It's a physically how you live your life. Someone in a podcast said to me once, we were talking about spirituality, and she said, oh yeah, but of course spirituality means different things to different people, Chris. I thought it can mean anything to anyone if they want, but that's not spirituality. It's like a pot noodle could be like a cup of soup to one person. It could be a bowl of fruit to another. Fine, dig out. We've got free will, haven't we? But that doesn't mean that it's not a pot noodle. And in the case of enlightenment, it's got to be lived a certain way. It just has. Enlightenment really is your natural state before we had all this toxic living and carbohydrate diet and overabundance of meat and alcohol, and before we learnt to poison ourselves with things like caffeine and kid ourselves that we're doing ourselves a favor in the morning and all of this stuff. It means peeling back to your natural state that you would have been born into as a child when you lived in harmony with the forest and your tribe, went about their daily gathering. And the only time that you fell out of nirvana just means, peace of mind, is when you maybe got attacked by a predator. In that case, you had to switch on, sort the problem out, and then you went back to being harmonious again. Your body was intrinsically aligned with nature and the frequency of life because you ate a pH balanced diet. I'm always talking about this. You wouldn't have had to go and get the super greens that I'm always recommending. Incidentally, there's a link below, folks. I may make a small couple of pence off you. This is what me and my family absolutely swear by. I just bought 5 kilos. That's how serious we take it. And you wouldn't have had to offset the acid from this toxic Western lifestyle diet. You naturally would be eating roots, shoots, leaves, nuts, stuff that's gentle on the body. And as a result, we're not in that lovely state of nirvana. We're stressed to the eyeballs all the time. It's stressful just catching a bus, worrying if you got the right change or if your pass is going to work or whatever it might be. It's stressful. Sometimes you just wake up in the morning and you're just feeling stressed. It's not a good existence. The diet is toxic. It just is. Rice is nice, but a bowl of rice should take you a year to collect in the nature. You shouldn't be able to eat it 3 times a day if you want. That's just, you're just toxifying your system. That's high on the glycemic index. You're filling yourself full of sugar, glucose. It's not going to end well for you. It will not end well for you, right? So that's the thing. So in order to get on this kick where your pineal and your pituitary gland are firing as they should be, your third eye is open, i.e. your connection to divine energy, which you connect through photons, i.e. packets of information. In order to do that, you have to have this nirvanic state, which means your body can't be toxic. And this is why I say jog around the block in the morning, walk around the block, try and have the hot shower, cold shower, as we would have done when we lived in the nature, right? Meditation means get rid of the noise. Imagine you're picking mushrooms in a forest like that. Complete mindfulness. You're not worried about, your Stig, your boss, or Stegosaurus chasing you or whatever. You're just complete, utter nirvana. And so what I'm getting at, and this is how it relates to Alan, is he didn't choose to die from being too awake. He drank himself to death, friends, from what I understand. Right? He was a lifelong smoker and drinker. It's that he understood from a left brain rationality what enlightenment was. But he hadn't made that trip east of Eden. Or if he had, he'd gone back again by choosing the alcohol over true spirit. And as such, you can talk this talk and you don't even get the walk yourself, You're not casting your net on the right-hand side of the boat, i.e. accessing the right hemisphere of the brain. You're still in tithing where 10%, the left side of your brain, is in control of you and keeping you in the material world. You haven't accessed that 90% where you enter the land of milk and honey, the real land of milk and honey, not what what people want to believe, of serotonin and DMT, the happy place. And that's it. And what I'd say is you get a lot of people like this. Chris, I'm seeing my next guru next week. Yeah, I've seen 7 ascended masters. I've been to Tibet. I've chanted. And you listen to these individuals and you feel so bad for them because they're so desperate to love themselves. That's it. They're desperately trying to seek that love that they didn't have as a child, or what got messed up when the parents got divorced or got battered out of them, or whatever it might be. And it's only when you can go, and there you are, you're face to face with yourself and every other thing that ever has been and ever will be, that eternal energy. That's it. You don't need to go to ascended master. You just need to be able to shut off the noise. And when you get your body in tune, which is why I'm always talking about the super greens, folks, link below, is you get this enormous sense of contentedness and well-being. It's why Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness. That's your reckoning period. It's why it says in the Bible there's nothing that cannot be fixed through fasting and prayer. Prayer is not what they sell, what the cabal have sold you, what they tell people in church. Prayer is not asking that Nanny's, her cancer gets fixed. Not that that's not a nice thing to pray for. Prayer means meditation. It means shutting off the noise, not bringing noise in and asking for a new mountain bike for Christmas. And once you get this, you enter this nirvanic place. And you're not always there. Someone comes and knocks you off your perch. Next thing you're thinking about comfort eating or going down the booze aisle in Tesco. And then you got to go, oh, no, I've got to get rid of this 3D material self. It doesn't do me any favors. I've got to get into the upper self, go into the upper room and sit at the right-hand side of God. It's talking about, it's allegory, folks. It's not about a guy on a cloud. It's talking about accessing the right hemisphere of your brain. And when you do that, you can never go back. When you truly practice it, you can never go back, because therein lies all your answers with life. And I think I can't obviously, I don't know what was going on in Alan's head. Clearly he had some shadow, what people call demons, as in stuff had happened in his past. But to get to a point where you choose drinking yourself to death rather than just embracing the Holy Spirit it's really sad, isn't it? It's really sad. Folks, can we like and subscribe? That would be absolutely brilliant. I haven't asked you so far. If you can like and subscribe, that would be awesome. And just to show you that this isn't all just, nonsense that I'm talking. We looked yesterday, didn't we, at scripture, and I actually got AI, right, to tell us how we've been lied to by organized religion. And it's not the religion, it's the cabal that's behind it, this cult that have been pushing the buttons for far too long now. They don't want people to access the upper room and go east of Eden. They want, little obeyers and followers that live in misery, thinking that if they can watch some more Netflix and just, maybe finally get that BMW, then everything's just going to be fine. And then, of course, have the holiday. Then have the next holiday after that. And then if they get the facelift and the 2 holidays and the Netflix and get that position at work, then they'll be happy. Then they'll be fulfilled. Then have the extension, isn't it? Got to get the house extended. Then I'll be happy. When should we have another child? Is that what we're missing? You get the point, right? But I asked AI, look, I said, Judas, descendant of the tribe of Judah. Judah means enlightenment. The tribe of Judah camp at the right-hand side, i.e. allegory for accessing, going east of Eden. The Lion of Judah is the Kundalini energy that rises up like a fiery sun inside you. So Judas is a descendant of the tribe of Judah. Why did he betray Jesus? Because Jesus doesn't exist, the same as you and I don't exist. I mean, we sort of do in a temporary reality, but we're just the universe experiencing itself subjectively. So you are me and I'm you. That's why I wish you no malice. And sometimes if I ever feel myself getting jealous of another, I have to check myself and go, whoa, we want the best for that person. They're just me in a different existence. So he had to deny Jesus. He had to betray Jesus. Because Jesus is a manifestation of the material, and the scenario of ascending to heaven on the cross is the spiritual journey. and you have the 5 wounds on the cross, the hands, the feet, and then the spear is representing overcoming your 5 senses to ascend to heaven, because it's only when you overcome this material self that you make that. That's why we meditate. It's an allegory for meditation, folks. So Judas was doing Jesus a favor. This is all allegorical, by the way, but he's doing him a favor. So I thought, look, let's see what AI says of this, because this is what I worked out. And look, Judas didn't betray Jesus. He fulfilled him. The tribe of Judah, right brain enlightenment, had to betray the flesh Jesus. Literal story, left brain materialism. Remember we talked about why did Alan drink himself to death? Because you can understand enlightenment, but unless you practice the thing, unless you get alkaline, unless you jog around the block or walk around the block in the morning and exercise, unless you turn off all the noise and the bells and the whistles and get rid of the alcohol, definitely get rid of the alcohol. That's just going to kill your spirit. That's not a lecture, by the way. You do what you want. I know what it took me, 50 years to get my head around that one. He betrayed Jesus with a holy kiss so the spiritual Christ could resurrect inside your own skull. Remember what I said. Everything in Scripture is about what's going on inside you. Without Judas, there is no salvation. He is the hero of the inner alchemy. How amazing is that? So the 99.999999999999999% of the planet are never going to understand what you and I now know. And 100% of organized religion pretty much have no interest in even understanding what that whole beautiful story of this incredible man called Yeshua, what it was all really about. So there we go. Dun dun dun. Yes, right. Okay, folks, if you can like and subscribe, that would be awesome. Before we go to locals, I'm just going to have a look at the wonderful chat. There's the legendary Spooky Spoon. Yes, if you want to, best way to find out about how I ended up working in Wan Chai in a nightclub run by the 14K Triads, and I was their doorman for a while, whilst chronically mentally unwell from crystal meth addiction. It's that book there, folks. Eat and Smoke, the one in the middle. The 40 Nights is my time in the wilderness. That was getting myself together and working it all out. And State of Mind is what I evolved into, running the length of the country to raise awareness of the veterans' suicide situation, which is not good. Just talking about that, folks, if you can spare a $5 or more, if you've got it, to support my Everest Summit in April, where I'll be shining a light for people like me who struggle as veterans, but also I want to be using this platform and my social media and my interviews and that kind of stuff, my media appearances, to be raising awareness of the link between childhood trauma and adult mental health, and the reason why we're losing so many veterans to suicide. No one's talking about it, but I am. If you can spare a $5, folks, there's a link for the GoFundMe below in the comments, or you can use a lot of people have used PayPal. Thank you, and massive, massive love to you. Thank you. Yes. Dun, dun, dun. Right, what am I looking at here? Yeah, same thing again. So when you hear people talking about the 7 seals and it's doomsday prophecy, it's not, folks. It's just talking about the 7 energy centers in Eastern mysticism. They call them chakras that run up the back of your spine, and in order to unlock your pineal and your pituitary gland to get them really firing and get you firing, you've got to unlock those energy centers. And that comes from your lifestyle choice, how you choose to live. What a lovely comment. I like that one, Fiver. Yes, Sean Atwood podcasted me. He also invited me to his last party, which was, he's a lovely bloke, Sean. He's been through the mill over the years, and he's been incredibly misunderstood, I believe, because when you meet Sean, he's just so nice. He's fascinating as well. He's he's a right good laugh. What else have we got? Here we go. Come on, always up for a few words of wisdom. Yes, I can tell you a lot, but my story is more fascinating about how I lost my mental health. I wrote the book from the perspective of someone who's mad. Not all the book, because I wasn't mad for all of it. It's a very funny book, by the way. I don't do the negative, do I? There's no regret in that book. It was just an experience. I become so mentally unwell that I tried to crawl across a cable between two skyscrapers. That's how ill I was, and it was a stupid thing to do. But I worked for the 14K in a club called Neptunes. In my book, I call it Club Nemo. There was 2 Neptunes in Hong Kong. I think it went on to become 3. I worked in the one that was just by Luard Road. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the names. They escape me now. It's been so long. And yeah, that was it. So there I was working the club. Most clubs in Hong Kong, they're either run by Chinese because of the old trading links, I'm guessing, or they're run by the triads, obviously, like most clubs are in the gangland districts around the world, or the red light districts. So I worked for the 14K, one of the largest triad organisations. I was just a doorman, folks. I got asked if I'd smuggle gold and drugs, but I didn't want to do that. A lot of people were doing that, but I thought that was a bit of a fool's errand. So there we go, yeah. And I saw some pretty mad stuff. In fact, my fellow doorman, chap, I won't say his name, begins with S, but he got chopped up big time in a chop-in. On the steps of his club one night. It was crazy times. Right, my lovelies, please like and subscribe. That'd be awesome. And if you could support me in any way you can on YouTube or Patreon or Locals or buy me a coffee, you can do that for as little as £1.99 a month. And there's a load of benefits there you get. I will update the credits after the YouTube videos, folks. I haven't had a chance to do it for ages. What with setting up Adventure Legends and planning on climbing Everest in April, you can imagine. Or you can support me via GoFundMe or PayPal. That'd be awesome. Right. Massive love. Go steady. I'll see you on Locals in about 3 minutes.
Morning, legends. I'm Chris Thrall. I'm a former Royal Marines commando. Upon leaving the forces, ended up chronically mentally unwell, self-medicating, undiagnosed trauma, and homeless on the streets of Hong Kong. It was the toughest battle I ever had to fight, but without the support of the medical community, without self-help groups, I learned the answers to rebuild my life and go on to complete a series of extreme charity challenges to send a vital message out there for other veterans who are struggling. I've run the length of the United Kingdom, run across the Sahara Desert, rode across the Atlantic Ocean. Now I'm taking on my biggest challenge yet, climbing Mount Everest. If you can support me, friends, and continue to shine a light for our struggling veterans and let them know there is life after PTSD, I'll put a link below. Can you spare a fiver? That's absolutely fine. And let's give our veterans the respect that they deserve. Much love.
No matter